Hey everybody, AphroditesCrush back with you once again. So this video, going to be covering a couple of the news stories and things that have been kind of popping around the net over the past week or so. First off is the release and subsequent price issue with the AMD Vega graphics card. If you don't know a whole lot about it, I would advise hitting up Linus Tech Tips channel for their most recent WAN show, and also hitting up Jay's 2 Cents YouTube channel as well. Give you a little bit more insight about what's going on. Basically, it was released at a particular price, and now there's some sort of price issue because of the style of bundles that they came out with last week, and also the standalones and the pricing differences. And there's at least one overseas retailer that's having issues with that. The one thing I'll say is this: if there is a price difference in the standalone versus the bundles, uh, one would assume that the retailers would not just not pay attention to it, because the retailers are saying one thing and AMD is saying another, and that's just a little weird to me that the retailers would just not pay that much attention to what's going on with that. That said, that is a very, very valid possibility. A lot of retailers will sometimes take the hit on any particular model just to be able to go ahead and get inside of the game. And right now, with the graphics card issue with the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other e-commerce miners, that's turning into a problem. I don't think it's one that's really going to be taking a large sum of money away from these makers. If anything, of course, retailers are driving the price up because of availability, and of course, like AMD and Nvidia are trying to accommodate. So that kind of fits in with that. The massive thing right now is that a lot of these retailers are now like, okay, the price went up. Well, you kind of see things from AMD's perspective because of how AMD priced it coming out the gate, and how the bundles work versus the standalone. So I think that's part of the issue. There's a real disconnect between retailers and AMD and the pricing schemes that they have going on with it right now. And apparently there's some like back-ended rebate that ended after a week, and now that's an issue. So you never know in a lot of cases like this. So I think that's going to play out over the next couple weeks, and we'll start to get the whole bigger picture of what's going on. The other thing, of course, is we're getting towards the end of August, and the iPhone rumors are just starting to rise and get bigger and bigger and bigger. This is happening. This is happening. Apple's going with this. Apple's going with this. The one thing that actually kind of piqued me towards this, I normally don't comment on the Apple rumors. However, I was watching Techno Buffalo earlier tonight, and he made videos like why I'm excited for Apple again. And he made a couple comments that didn't really sit too well with me, in the sense that he's like, wireless charging is really important to me, and you know, real estate screen size is really important to me. I'm like, wait, back up. This is more of an opinion on this. Apple in the past has more done what they would want in a device, and then pushed it out, and then the public is like, oh my goodness, this is a great idea. This is a great idea. Very rarely has Apple taken a look at what a subset of customers have said they wanted, and then boom, giving it to them. And Apple has not had a feature that was not ready for prime time that they put inside of their devices. And that's one thing that just irritates me about a lot of us in the kind of tech blogger sphere, the vlogosphere, is that we're always like, well, we want this from the next iPhone, and we want this from the next Mac, and we want this, and these are pipe dreams over here, but they might come someday. And you're kind of defeating your purpose with what Apple has done and will always do. Apple is specifically for doing what Apple feels is best for the product. And product of usability and user interface. Having literally probably less than 5% of the customer base, which is like us, prosumers. That's basically what we are. We're prosumers. We do YouTube, we vlog, we blog, we put out reviews of the devices when they come out. But in the end, all we are consumers who use items like a professional. That's all we are. We're a small subset of Apple's overall plan. I remember a couple years ago when everybody was freaking out because Apple didn't have eye technology like Samsung did. Well, Samsung put that in their phones and it didn't work. I remember a couple years ago where everybody was chiding Apple on. There's a couple things, but like for instance, the NFC. That's one thing people still haven't gotten out of an Apple product, and a lot of times the NFCs are a little wonky. Another one is this entire switch to having the button on the back of the phone. I can't tell you how many times I see a tech vlogger go, it doesn't really feel natural. If it doesn't really feel natural to even a prosumer, what makes you think Apple's going to integrate it into their next product? What makes you think that Apple is going to say, this is fantastic for our demographic to have something that most people do not feel works within an aesthetic that they provide? We are so in each other's own egos as tech bloggers that we're in this headspace right now where we're like, well, this is what we want. Well, it's never been about what we want as far as our devices go with Apple. Apple decides what they want to do literally for themselves, and then they put that out. Something that Steve Jobs has said for years. We make the devices that we want to use, and then we provide that to the public. I don't see how a lot of these tech vloggers don't get that. You know, I've been going through, I'm in the middle of reviewing an iBook, a Mac Mini, and an Apple TV, all older generations. And these devices are just fantastic. The layout is almost pristine. The Mac Mini that I got is just about as good as the new Mac Mini where I do most of my daily driver work from. And that just in and of itself tells me a lot about what Apple has done just within the past 10 years as far as the products go. They have a level of consistency which people seem to think is a detriment, but it's really not a detriment because you know when Apple puts out a product, Apple puts in a feature, it just works. And I don't see how a lot of people don't get that. If Apple doesn't think it's going to function correctly within the aesthetic and doesn't think it's going to work correctly as a standard feature at all anyway, why would they put it in there to have it get eviscerated by us? Because we asked for it, we want it right now, but when we get it right now, it doesn't work. This type of situation creates distrust from a consumer to a company. That's why Apple, for X amount of years, was the number one device manufacturer as far as cell phones go, quality-wise. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I want Apple to be more open with this and want them to change this. You still got to realize Apple does what Apple does for themselves first, and then that 90% of the time translates to everybody else. I remember, of course, when the iPad came out, everyone was like, well, a tablet's just not going to work. We don't need a tablet. The iPad came out and it blew the doors off of the entire industry to where now you have everybody making tablets just to even be half of a working product that an iPad is. I'm not the biggest fan of the smartwatch market, but the Apple Watch actually got me excited to maybe get a smartwatch and have it work with my iPhone. Why? Because it just works. It's seamless. It connects with no problem. I can check my messages on my iPhone, on my Mac. I can, and if I end up getting an Apple Watch, I'll be able to check it on my Apple Watch. It's that type of quality that Apple seeks to keep and to attain and to just keep at a measurable level, that if they put in a product into their phone that doesn't meet their level of quality, they won't put it in to the device at all. And we are like, well, we want that feature. Give us the feature, Apple. Come on, we want the feature. Give us the feature, Apple. It's like wireless charging and NFC. Why would they push it out if it barely works on other providers' phones? Why? Because a lot of people still have problems with wireless charging. This is a feature that has been out on phones and accessories for phones for years, and it's still not. It's not perfect. It needs to be perfect before Apple will put it in. And that's the one thing so many of us just don't understand. If it doesn't work, it doesn't go into an Apple product. If it does not meet the required level of quality that Apple sets for every single feature that goes into the iPhone, they will not put it in there, because if it's not good for them, it's not good for us. We need to back away from our ego a little bit as consumers go and say, you know what? If you don't want it in there, there's probably a reason why you don't want it in there. As far as things like screen real estate goes, that's just searching for things to grasp onto. It really is. Next, people are going to be like, well, and I've actually already heard this, is, well, why doesn't Apple have the side screen so where you can have the notifications on the side screen like that one Samsung phone a couple years back? It's because the aesthetic isn't correct. It just isn't correct. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much for kind of listening to me kind of rant on the two biggest news stories of the past couple weeks. What do you think about the Vega controversy? Where do you think it's going? Hit it down in the comments. And as far as the Apple leaks go, also again, hit it down in the comments. Tell me what you think of what may be coming as far as the new Apple iPhone. But thank everybody out there for watching. And ladies and gentlemen, goodbye and good night.